made the transition and
The
why
transition, yes.
why I chose to transition? Well, there were several factors. One of the main reasons was gas prices when they started rising back during COVID. And during COVID, we were a necessary business, so we were, out all the time because everyone was at home looking at their lawns and could see everything wrong with it they wanted to change.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
we also had a lot of employees that at that time we were kind of fighting against unemployment because it was so easy to get unemployment. And so getting guys to work and really put their heart and soul into it rather than being thankful, to be able to work, which we did have a lot of, don't get me wrong. But you still had, several that would rather get fired so they could go get unemployment.
So they could collect, yeah.
Yep. And so, I'm trying to figure out a different way and also, be out there on the job. But at the same time, these machines are breaking down right and left because
The gas machines.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, I'm talking all during COVID and shortly after. But, the blowers, the 2 cycles, so you got to mix oil and gas. And no matter how many times you show and explain this is the ratio, it didn't always get repeated. Yeah, exactly. And so, I got sick of being a mechanic, to be honest with you. And of course, again, gas prices. And I had an electric trimmer at that time. And I thought it was the coolest thing. And the only problem was, having a battery that was charged all the time. So I would have it plugged. Yeah, I'd have it plugged into an inverter that you keep in your car, like for camping, things like that. And I'd be able to charge it, and it would work. So anytime a weed trimmer, wouldn't work, then we could use the electric one, and no problem. And then they came out with push mowers, and this was the brand called Atlas that you get at Harbor Freight. And I mean, the push mower, was amazing as well. And I was like, my God, if they ever come out with a zero turn, I will sell these X marks because I had
that quick, huh?
Yeah, I had X marks, I had Steels, all the top of the line stuff. But again, no matter what it was breaking down, and I was spending more time fixing things than I was actually able to be out doing jobs and making sure that they were done to the standards that made us so popular. What got us all the referrals and kept us in business to where we were pretty much referral only, didn't have to advertise.
Nice.
And at the time, the company was actually called Dirt Cheap because it was something catchy. And we did a great job. So then we changed it from Dirt Cheap to DC and just went kind of by the initials. But we did great. But again, I couldn't stay consistent out there making sure that we were continuing to do great when I was having to stay back and play mechanic. And I did hire mechanics, but I still kind of had the issues of, this carburetor needs cleaned. Well, at first, they would take it apart and clean it. But then after a while, I noticed that all they were doing was just pouring carburetor cleaner in it and let the liquid do its magic. And it doesn't really work like the bottle says. And so then, of course, I just cleaned them myself. But then I had a boat that I'd made out of some solar panels to have electric engines on the back of it, to be able to use at a lake that they wouldn't let gas be on. And so I was like, well, maybe I can figure out a way that I can charge these batteries on here so that it'll last throughout the day. And again, I was just using a push mower and a weed trimmer. But, I slowly started figuring that out. And now we're getting to, 2021, maybe the start of 2022. And I was like, as soon as they come out with a big zero turn, I'm going to get it. But still, I had to figure out the battery thing. But during that time, I started with larger, panels, larger inverters. And then, sure enough, they came out with the Ego, came out with the zero turn. And keep in mind, I tried different brands like Echo, or not Echo, sorry, I had Echo as well. But Ryobi, God, it was junk. Sorry, Ryobi, but it is junk. Just kind of like the drills and stuff like that.
Just keeping it
yes, yes. But even like they called these seasonal tools. As far as Ryobi drills and things like that. It's because you have to buy one every season, and it's kind of the same thing with the landscape stuff. But if you wanted something cheaper, for home, hey, maybe it worked great. But it definitely didn't work for any kind of commercial atmosphere. But then Ego came along, and my God, is a game changer. They're amazing. And Atlas as well. I mean, Atlas, awesome. But, I don't think they have zero turns even to this day.
Yeah.
But still, their push mower and their weed trimmer is wonderful. But Egos, I mean, it's like landscapers designed them.
Like a workhorse.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I mean, I can go into all that stuff another time, the way, the trimmers feed themselves and all this stuff. But I saw how much I was saving by switching to electric and by not going to get gas, and not just the gas, the money to get the gas, but the money.
The time too, I'm sure.
Bingo.
Stops.
Bingo. It's insane. It's insane. And then the time, of repairs, the cost of repairs. But again, the cost is in the time as well, because you're losing
Absolutely. Time is money.
And God forbid you have to put a mower into the shop. I mean, they're 2, 3, 4 week waiting list to get something repaired, as simple as a carburetor or a gas tank that just needs dumped and refilled. But also, with that being said, once I'm using this electric, I'm noticing that I don't stink anymore. Well, okay, I take that back. You sweat, you stink.
You don't stink like gas, Mike.
Yes, ass. But it's just, there's so many positives. But then on top of that too, I had a daughter. Well, I have a daughter. Sorry, she's grown up. But she, is pretty sensitive to, the loud noises. Of course, homeschooling because of COVID, but also, she was homeschooled. And, it was just amazing for her to be able to not have that noise going on. And I noticed that with a lot of my customers too, that had people that work from home. And of course, during COVID, everyone was at home. And for them not to hear that loud blower, which I mean is hitting to, high 80s, 90s, even sometimes over 100 decibels.
Hearing damage, I'm imagining.
Big time. And
that's why they sell all those earplugs.
Right? Exactly. So it's just so many freaking benefits that you don't even think about until after you're using it. And not to mention the whole, you want to start it, you push a button and it goes, you let go of the button, it stops. There's no pulling, to try and get something started. You don't have to choke it to make it stop. It just, you never realize how much time you spend using something that's, even a chainsaw or a blower, whatever it is. You try and put the 2 and 2 together, and electric versus gas, I mean, it's just completely different as far as, the time you save and how much time you spend or waste. It just is incredible. And so once I got the solar power thing, figured out, then I was like, okay, it's time. And noticing that the Ego zero turns are just as good as the gas ones, then I was like, I'm switching everything. So I sold everything gas and made it all electric. Have enough solar power now on all the trailers, which I have now for the last 1.5 to 2 years, where, we can stay out and do just as many jobs as we did with gas. And so it's incredible, but we make so much more.
Right. The return.
Absolutely.
So what I'm hearing you say is that the rebrand was almost necessary because it went from one type of service to an entirely different type of service with a new focus, offering something that you weren't offering before and distinguishing yourself from the masses, so to speak. Because you go to the gas station, you see landscapers. You go down the street, you see landscapers. You look in the paper, there's landscapers. So what makes you so unique and different mandated a rebranding, so to speak, because you were a completely different entity with a completely different focus and a new offering.
Absolutely. You're right.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, thanks for sharing, Mike.
You got it.